meatballs. So the first thing I've got here is I've got one medium onion that I've diced up, just a yellow onion, put it in a little bit of oil and cooked it over medium heat for about 5 minutes. So that's been cooking down now, just until it's a little bit golden and just softened. I always like to cook my onions if I'm putting them in a meatball. Meatballs cook relatively quickly because they're not super huge. I mean, if you're doing something like this, you don't necessarily need to cook the onions, but I'm doing nice little meatballs, so cooking them first gives more flavor, takes a little bit of the moisture out, but still gives it a little bit of sweetness and a bit of moisture to bring into those meatballs. So that's looking absolutely beautiful. Now I wanna season up those onions with a couple of delicious things. This is where we start to get a little buffalo chicken-y. So the first thing I need is 2 cloves of garlic. So I'm gonna rasp those right on into the pan. Any kind of residual heat in this pan is gonna kind of pull back on that garlic flavor. And since I'm mincing the garlic so fine, it will cook up in that beautiful meat super, super nice and quickly, so you won't end up having like raw garlic flavor. So tap that right on in, and you're good to go. Then we're gonna bring in those classic flavors that I like to add pretty much anytime I'm doing like a hot wing, or if I'm doing specifically like a vegetarian version of a hot wing. So we're gonna add in a teaspoon of cumin. Cumin is one of my favorite ingredients in my pantry. It's really kind of smoky. It's a little bit lemony. It's really, really tasty. So I've got ground cumin here, just a teaspoon of that, going right on into those onions. Again, adding them into the warm pan helps those spices kind of bloom and develop. Then I'm gonna go in with half a teaspoon each of smoked paprika for a little bit of kind of like cupboard bacon, is what I call it. Smoky and delicious. I just came up with that, I'm thrilled. I'm sorry. Cupboard bacon, but not in a bad way, in a good way. I'm also gonna go in with half a teaspoon of cayenne pepper. Now, if you don't want this super spicy, you can pull that back to a 1/4 teaspoon. But just to round things out and give this a nice kind of like push of flavor, half a teaspoon also of chili powder. Love a chili powder. It's not overly spicy, it's more smoky than anything. So that's gonna give you really nice deep flavor, even though this cooks up really, really quickly. So give that a stir just to combine and get all those flavors to get to know each other. And again, that little bit of heat, you can kind of smell all of those spices coming through. Now what you wanna do is set this aside, because you want those onions to cool completely before you add them into your meatball mixture. We've talked about this already, but you don't wanna add something hot into ground meat mixture unless you're literally immediately cooking it in the oven, because you really don't wanna, you wanna avoid that kind of heat difference, because it gets things a little dicey. So now we're gonna move on though to the panade. Everyone's gonna be like, Mary, we've heard about panade like 4 times now. Get out of here. I could talk about panade 18 more times. I love panade. Panade is essentially just a breadcrumb mixture with a little bit of liquid. This is gonna kind of help bind the meatballs together. It's gonna help keep them nice and moist and give them a really nice tender texture. So I've got a 1/4 cup of just plain breadcrumbs in here. If you don't have breadcrumbs, you could just use like a ripped up piece of bread. That would work as well. I'm gonna go in with a 1/4 cup of milk. If you don't wanna use milk here, milk is traditional, but you could do chicken broth. That would be really, really nice. Give that a little bit of a stir. Ooh, know what else would be good? Beer. Beer in here. That would be nice. A little beer and a wing, what a delight. Okay, so give that a mix just to combine. And as you can see, it starts to kind of hydrate up a little bit. So that's what you want it to look like. It kind of looks like your cereal that you forgot about this morning and you find it at the end of the day. All right, that's looking great. I'm gonna go in with an egg as well, again, to help bind everything up. Pop that right on in. Then to bring a little bit of freshness, I'm gonna go in with about 2 tablespoons of finely chopped parsley here. I'm gonna go grab my knife. So, hopefully I got one in the drawer. Nice, okay. I feel like we're gonna clip that, me walking. All right, get that nice and chopped up. You can chop it as finely as you'd like or as chunky. Since these are meatballs, I'm gonna go a little bit finer just so we get little bits and everything. And again, whenever I measure herbs, which you will see later in this recipe as well, you really measure with your heart. You buy that bushel of parsley, of cilantro, of whatever. I want you to actually use it. I don't want it to just turn into mush in your crisper. We definitely don't want that. Okay, that's looking fantastic. I'm gonna go in there with those cooled onions as well. So pop those right on in. Again, that's gonna bring a ton of flavor, a little bit of sweetness, some moisture as well. Then I wanna go in with the meat. Immediately, this already smells delicious. For the meat, I am using a pound of ground chicken. Now, a pound is also known as 454 grams, which is an annoying measurement, but that's what it is. But that's what you buy typically in those little packs you get at the grocery store. Ground chicken is a lot more tender and soft than something like ground beef or ground pork. So you don't really need to mix this all that much. Just pop it on in and give it a bit of a toss. Now, I usually like to use 2 forks here, because it kind of makes it easy to get everything incorporated without kind of compressing it. Because you really don't want to compress that together, because then it makes it a little bit, again, tough. And when you're having a meatball, you want them to be nice, you want them to be soft, a little bit of a chew on the outside and golden brown, but you don't want them to be like a sad little burger. Nobody wants that. You know the burger, there's that one person in your family who's like, I make great burgers. Spoiler alert, you might not make great burgers. I'm thinking of someone in particular in my family, and I'm like, they're a little tough, I'm not gonna lie. Okay, give that a good mix to combine. Gonna go in with a little bit of salt as well. You can add in some pepper as well, but we've got that cayenne in there, so you don't necessarily need to. And then we need to dish these out. This is the thing I love about meatballs. You mix everything in a big bowl, and then you just kind of plop it onto a pan. So I like to use a disher. Basically, it's a spring-loaded ice cream scoop. This one's about a 2 tablespoon worth, because you want these meatballs to be about 2 tablespoons in size. So I'm just gonna scoop them out and plop them onto a lined sheet pan. Now at this point, if you wanted to, you could roll these. If you do wanna roll them to make them perfect little meatballs, I would dampen my hands with a little bit of water. That'll make it so the meat doesn't stick. Anytime you're doing anything kind of sticky, a little water on your hands will make it absolutely perfect and won't stick to your hands. But I'm gonna leave these like this because I like them a little rough and tumble today. Give a little bit of oil just on the top, because chicken's a relatively lean meat. And then you want to pop those into a 400-degree oven for just 20 minutes, just until the internal temperature reaches 165. Pop those in, we've got them doing their thing. Now I have to make my favorite thing about a buffalo chicken wing, and that is the blue cheese sauce. So good, my favorite. So in my bowl, I love making a blue cheese dressing that's kind of sort of ranch as well, because then everybody wins. So I've got a bowl here. Into there, I'm gonna go in with ½ a cup of buttermilk. This is gonna give that buttermilk ranch vibe. So that's gonna go right on in. If you don't have buttermilk, you can leave this out and just add more sour cream and mayonnaise. It will be a little bit thicker, but that's fine. So I'm gonna go in with a ¼ cup each of sour cream, maybe a little bit more because I'm feeling it, and mayonnaise. Pop that on in. Then for a little bit of kind of ranchiness here, I'm gonna go in with a teaspoon of onion powder. Onion powder kind of blooms in this creamy sauce and gives you a real kind of ranch flavor. Super, super tasty. If you wanted to, you could add a little garlic powder in there as well. Now for a little bit of herbiness, I'm gonna go in with about 3 tablespoons of dill and about 2 tablespoons of chopped chives, but again, measure with your heart. These ones you can measure kind of or chop as chunky or as fine as you'd like. That looks good to me. Pop that on in. I'm gonna give that a whisk just to combine. Season that up with some salt as well. Little bit of pepper just to give it a bit of a kick. And this is where you can adjust. If you want it a little bit thicker, feel free to add more of the thicker ingredients, more of that mayonnaise, more of that sour cream. You can sub out the sour cream for a little bit of yogurt or skyr. That would work as well. But now we need my favorite ingredient, and that's the blue cheese. So I've got about ½ a cup of blue cheese here. Toss that in. Give that a stir to combine. And that to me looks like a dream. I would eat that on a wedge salad any day. Okay, we are done with that. Now, last but not least, the final thing we have to make for this recipe is that buffalo sauce. Super easy to put together. I've got about ½ a cup of the hot sauce that you use for buffalo wings. We're gonna call it Fred's here today. Does that sound good? So go on in with that. You can even buy a variety that has this additional ingredient in it, but I like to make it myself. All it is that hot sauce with about 3 tablespoons of butter. That's gonna give you a really nice texture, bring everything together. Gonna give that a mix just to combine. Okay, perfect. Those meatballs are smelling delish. Let's go grab them. Oh yeah. Whoa, they smell so good. Okay, I'm thrilled. Look at how good those look. If you want them a little more golden brown, feel free to prop the broiler on for a minute or two. Then you're just gonna go into that beautiful buffalo sauce. They are tender, they are clearly juicy. Pop them on in. They're a little golden brown on the bottom, which is a dream. And then all you need to do is toss those together. Whoops. And am I gonna do it? I think I'm gonna do it. I love making anything buffalo wing because you get to pretend you're like at a wing shop and you put your apron on and you do this. You toss it around. Beautiful. Okay, real quick to plate this up, I love doing a sauce down on the plate. It makes it easy to get a little bit of sauce in every single bite. So spread that out. That blue cheese is there. For a little bit of crisp and a classic on a hot wing platter, some beautiful celery that I've thinly sliced up just as a bed. Also, this makes it healthy. What a delight. Then we're just gonna add on those wonderful meatballs. Just pop those right over top, and you end up with a delicious platter. You could serve this for a party. You could serve this up with some pita on the side. You are in for an absolute treat. Okay, maybe a little extra blue cheese. Yeah, oh, I'm thrilled. Hey, Mary here. What did you think? Drop your comments below, and don't forget to like and subscribe for more of the good stuff.